Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello,
I'm
Mhm.
Lizma,
this is Phil Molay.
Avalon.
and Cynthia will join on later.
So first, maybe the lecture content, where we
Mhm.
talked about the lecture talked about the different kinds of media. It
Mhm.
was immersive media, interactive media, dynamic and static media. And as far as that lecture content, what it brought to for me, I found it interesting because I haven't really sat with a lecture about the different types of media from this perspective, like really kind of separating them out like this and going into how they had the bullet points and the examples and just kind of
Yeah.
how they work. So I haven't really, I mean, being a designer for all these years, obviously I'm aware of this stuff, and a lot of it has come up since I've been working in the industry. So I've sort of had to bring it along, or if I'm working with it, kind of self teach myself how to do some things. And that would probably mostly be in the form of dynamic media. And the kind of things that I would do is mostly a static designer because I have a graphic design background, and I learned in the 90s, and there wasn't anything moving in the 90s. It was all still and print and ink and that kind of stuff. But then as I started working in the field, I started getting clients wanting interactive or emails, not interactive emails, but like HTML style emails with animated GIFs. And so that was really my first experience with working with dynamic media, was little, maybe a headline that just flashed different colors, or the word changed, or maybe I would, make a GIF of a dot going across the top of an email just for an attention grabber kind of thing. So those were kind of like my first experiences with dynamic media. As far as applying it to the class, you know, Avalon mentioned a minute ago before the recording started, I haven't really had a lot of this in my universe until getting to this program. So at this time, applying to the class, I picked two of the motion graphics projects. Well, one of them we all are doing with the animated logo,
Yeah.
and the second one is going to be the looping animation that I chose. Mostly because I feel like I want to challenge myself a little more to get into motion graphics. After I'm done with this program, I have a job teaching a After Effects class
Oh, fun.
in a design program at a university. So, I'm trying to also get myself up to speed with some more dynamic media.
Nice.
So I'm gonna kind of be diving headfirst into that. Like, literally, school starts our last week of month 12 is the first week of the fall
Wow.
semester. So I'm really jumping right in. So it's
Awesome.
kind of cool. So this class is going to help me um, professionally be able to get some more skills in dynamic media, where I can turn right around in a couple months and teach it. I'm going to kind of do some YouTube tutorials on After Effects, because I've never really, well, I've worked in it, but very, very minimally. I've made like little tiny animations in After Effects, but nothing like what we've done since this program started, like in month 2.
Yeah.
So I feel those two pieces of assets from this class are going to help me more in the immediate professional, like in my immediate professional job or life career,
Mhm.
um, in the industry. Or myself as a designer in the future too, because now I really feel like I have the confidence to go and like bid on work that involves motion graphics, because I would be confident in my ability to pull it off. Whereas before, I would kind of like, a client may ask about it, I'm like, well, I could do animated gifs, not nothing really too crazy or wild. But now, with like the way social media is and video is integrated so heavily, it's really one of those things that I think as a designer, you need to be a media designer now to be relevant. Like
Right.
my degree from 1995 is pretty dated just as a static design, graphic design degree. Um, so, and it was part of the reason why I went to get my MFA. It was, let's make myself relevant again, for the second part of my career. um, so that's kind of where the lecture content kind of really directly leads into, my view of media and the different types of media, and then how the projects from this month is gonna sort of change some things for me and allow me to learn more so that I can be teaching it for a job that I'm in the process of being hired for August. So yay.
So similar to you, Phil, I've done a little bit of everything, but I've never seen it categorized like this before. But it takes another, like, it impacts me in a different way of looking at it, looking at billboards as being static, and now looking at TV commercials being dynamic, looking at social media being interactive, and immersive media, which is one of the things that actually got me into graphics, was guerrilla marketing.
Oh,
So
cool.
I would see the New York type of ads, and I was like, oh, wonder how that was created. And that
Right.
really got me into graphics. But at the moment in my current career, what's more interactive media is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing a lot of web and social media along with managing. So in this class, I'm hoping through the lecture and action and the sketches and the storyboards that I get better at interactive media. Um, Apps are becoming very popular.
Mhm.
Streaming platforms are becoming the norm. Couple of years ago, everything went from being on CDs to now like Spotify. So now that's a platform you can have an opportunity to do either like a graphic, or even some albums are motion like on the Spotify. So interactive media is one of the ones for me.
That's cool. Do you have you done any, like, when you mentioned apps, I thought immediately I've been hired to do just like button graphics and
Yeah,
things.
the
So
UI.
those would be
Yeah,
static, but I'm not making them work, or but I would do
changing the
maybe the
colors.
up, yeah, the up and down state or the rollover or whatever states of these buttons. Have you done anything like that?
I
Like
haven't
UI, UX?
I haven't that I used to like create the UI UX like look and feel, but I
Yeah.
haven't been part of the back end of coding it. But
Oh yeah,
the
no,
look
no coding.
the look and feel I have before,
Yeah.
like early on in the days. And then they would want me to code, and I'm like, I can't code an app, but I can do a
Yeah.
website.
It's funny about the coding thing because so many times over the years, like when websites were first coming up, and every bit, one of my clients, either they didn't have a website or they had a really old one and they wanted to update it. They expected you to code it too, and it's
Yeah,
like,
Mhm.
yeah,
I don't
not really.
know. Yeah.
you know. But over the years, I've taken like CSS kind of certifications and
Oh, cool.
HTML, like,
I
you
like
know,
vaguely used to
vaguely.
know HTML and CSS, but that was like a long
Time
while
ago.
back. So now I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, ooh,
I'm
I
Yeah,
don't
I could
remember.
I could do enough now that there's these WYSIWYG sort of email,
yes.
like MailChimp and
Count.
iModules, like these email platforms where you can, usually my clients that have those, they give me a password to log in, and I get in there, and the interface is really clunky and it's hard to make stuff align, and so I have to go
Yeah.
into the HTML,
HTML,
and I
correct.
could figure out like where the alignment is and where the boxes, and so I could
It's
usually
simple
do it by
though.
looking at it and maybe change a value for something just to kind of tweak it. But I don't know, that that's not really coding, but you know.
It's
Kind of
dabbling.
nudging. around.
Because I do
Yeah.
the same thing too. Recently, we had like a meeting with the main art. So our city uses a company named Granicus for their web stuff. So we do the editing and the updating, but they keep hold of the platform because they do it for several cities. So now they're like, "Do you know CSS and HTML?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "JavaScript, I'm not too good." They're like, "That's all you need is the CSS and the HTML." They're like, "Most people don't even know that, so you're good."
You're far
So
enough along. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like my clients, because they can get in a platform and they can build an email, but they just can't make them look right because you really kind of got to be able to tweak the CSS or the HTML just a
a
little, and
little
that's
bit.
enough to get me to work, you know. And they
And you
look,
have to have that designer eye. They don't have
yeah,
like the designer eye
yeah,
that
yeah.
Mhm.
They
that
build a
you do to make
hierarchy.
it pop.
Yep, make it pop. Yes. That's interesting. Well, that's pretty cool. Like I just like, and I know Avalon hasn't talked yet, but talking to my classmates and seeing where you've come from and the different types of things you're interested in and how different we all are, although we're studying the same thing,
Same thing.
how nichey this whole industry is. Like you can just really pick one little
One,
thing and really specialize it and get really good and be very successful with it. So it's cool. It's a cool industry.
it is. It is.
Yeah, I remember my dad was like really like he was like surprised at the fact how there were so many different things that you could do with this type of degree. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Oh wow!" He was like, "I thought you just did like stuff with static kind of like media," but he didn't realize that like graphic design is in like all these different types of things and media design branches out and all that. And he was just like, "Wow."
Yeah, like when you decided to go into it in school, were your parent or was your dad just like, "What is that? I've never heard of that. You don't need to go study that," because that's how
He
my
knew
dad
about
was.
graphic design, but he was initially confused and he was like, I don't want you getting too into like, an art type of degree because at first
uh,
he thought it was like gonna be like a strictly art kind of thing.
like
And
fine
so
art,
yeah, like fine arts. And,
painting and
mhm. And so
That's how my yeah,
he
that's
was
how my dad
worried.
understood it. He thought I was getting an art degree. He was like, "Yeah," because I
oh,
started college in architecture, so
oh,
go be an architect. And that's where I started. And I did a year in architecture, maybe a year and a half, and it wasn't for me. And when I broke the news, he was like, "What, you gonna go get an art degree? I don't know about all that." Like, no, just trust me, we got this.
my
Yeah.
parents were like confused. They're from an island, so they didn't know what it was. They thought all their thoughts were like nurses and engineers, like
Hey,
they make money.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'm like, no, I want to be a designer. Like I knew since I was 14, and they were like, I don't know. But then once I started to go get the bachelor's and they saw it, they're like, oh wait, in our country we do have graphic designers. They build all the signs and they make sure that the church says church. And I'm like,
Yep.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I think
again, static media,
Yeah.
just right
I
there.
think my dad started to figure out more like, oh, okay, wait, I know what you're talking about now. Because he works in IT. And then he
Mm.
started to realize, oh, you're like those people who work with the marketing people to make sure all the like brochures and all that.
There
Like,
you go. Well, he figured it out.
He
Yeah.
figured it out, yeah.
That's cool. That's kind of, yeah, I guess if you're in IT, you see all the other departments of a company and they understand marketing and who marketing works with. Yeah, it makes more sense.
yeah, but it took him a bit initially because he was like, "Oh no, are you doing something like fine arts?" Because originally, I think the thing that also made it come off that way was that I remember before I went to get my bachelor's, I was looking around at SCAD at one point,
Mm.
and then I was like, but then at the time they didn't accept me, which is so funny to think about because I actually tried to apply to them again for when I did my MFA and they still were like, nah. So then it's kind of funny how Full Sail found me because they Full Sail found me through my LinkedIn.
Mm.
Oh, They came to you.
And
Interesting.
that's
Wow.
how I found Full Sail. But I've always had like more experience though with like the static type of media, since that was initially like I do a lot of traditional art. So when I went into doing my graphic design program with my bachelor's, it was a lot of like just building upon that and learning how to use different tools to make like postcards. And then when I made that magazine for the school, I did that. And just I ended up using a lot of like learning about different types of static media. So it wasn't until I got to Full Sail that I started getting a hang of like, and as we started learning more about different types of dynamic media, as I mentioned, we did the radios, we did the like commercials, and we started editing the videos, which I only got a sample of right before I graduated when I made like my video commercial for our anime club that we had. I used Premiere Pro for that, and I like recorded it and put the video together in there. But it wasn't until we got the Full Sail that I started to learn more about that program. And then we started talking about motion graphics and After Effects. And like, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that this was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, it's one of those things it really sheds a light upon. It's like, hey, you can do this, you have the capability to do this stuff. You've got the design eye, you know how to sort of concept, you know how to sketch, you know how to kind of think about the process, and you're going through the whole thing with the thesis branding project from front to back. So it's like you're going to be able to do just like all of us, you're going to be able to do any part of it. Are you interested in specializing in anything at this point, or are you still just in a general designer kind of place?
I've been thinking about that since I noticed that I really do tend to have like a particular like eye and just like niche. I noticed that I'm good when it comes to like illustration or like making like decorative kind of like things like that. So I feel like maybe since I had all that practice working with the static and like the print media, I could like use that. But
Yeah.
I still feel like I want to get a bit better though with like the motion graphics, because I'm still kind of like, how do I make things move? And that's like, I feel like that's still like an important skill to have, to know how to like at least do simple little things.
Even if you're in static, I mean, just from what I was saying earlier with my experience, just strictly static background, clients still want stuff that moves,
Yeah.
So I think it's a necessary skill set to have, even if it's basic, like you're saying, they want things to move and they want things to be able to change or flash. You don't have to have a cartoon character, but if you can just move a headline across the screen, something like that, I think that's important to know.
I think you should like explore them all. Like in my experience, I explored everything. They used to tell me to like not be the jack of all trades, but I went for it, and it helped me now being a manager, because I know about each and every, I know about static, everything, so I can help people when they come to me and they're like, how do I do this? Or how do I edit this video? Or how do I edit this website? So just continue to do all of them, and one might speak over the rest.
Yeah, super important as you grow and become senior in management to be a jack of all trades. You're exactly right. Like, don't be a jack of all trades, but I think that's the sort of a definition of a designer. Like,
yes,
you're solving these problems.
correct.
And these problems aren't always square boxes.
Black and white,
sometimes. Yeah, they're not black and white. They're not just squares. They're going to be everything, and you're going to have to be able to design the same types of solutions for all the different media. So it is very well rounded. And like when we were working on our Bachelor of Fine Arts, the stuff they were making us take was fine arts. Like we took painting classes and sculpture,
drawing,
and jewelry and drawing and whatever else. pottery.
I
Yes.
know
And
for
so,
me, it kind of overlapped because we had a lot of different photography
yep,
classes
Yes,
photography.
and
that
we used
too.
Photoshop and different things like that. And then I had a
Illustrator.
2D and 3D design class.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely photography. You mentioned Liz working with photographers earlier. So
Yes.
not necessarily taking a picture, but do you art direct? Like have you set up shots and directed the photographer?
I had.
Mm.
Yeah.
I had to like set up and tell them where to take for our last campaign for plastic free. We had to like go outside. I had to tell them which parks to go to, what shots to get. We even had to like write scripts. Like I've written scripts over the last. We're writing scripts here, but I'm writing scripts at work
Doing
too.
them at
I
work.
just
Yeah.
I just wrote a script this week because we do reels now. Because as the times are changing, everybody's requiring more content. So now had to write a script for the reels. So the classes are coming into real life really fast.
Yeah, it is moving really fast.
Yeah.
Like especially with social media just taking up video with reels, and yeah, clients immediately want to go straight to motion graphics and
Motion.
video. Yeah.
And you have to know it to be able to give other people you talk to or outsource or manage direction. Because if
Right.
you don't know anything about it, you can't really relate to what they're doing. So
Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to be the hands touching the computer and doing the work, but as
work.
a director, you're gonna guide them, and so yeah, you do need to know what the capabilities are and what obviously the skill set of the people who are under you, but they still need direction, because you have more to think about than just that task, right? You've got the whole brand
Picture.
and
Yeah.
big picture, and everything's got to stay on brand, and all of our knowledge
Full
surfaces
circle.
yet again,
Yeah.
right? Design decisions, every design has a decision behind it, and get your rationale going, right? When I was doing my research, I was mostly for this particular lecture and content, my research was a little more overarching, like generalized. um I was doing research more so about brand assets in general, and
Mm,
what,
Mhm.
like, generally speaking, when you're looking at it, because I was trying to look at the group of 6 brand assets
that you
as,
picked.
yeah, that I picked, or even the
Oh,
ones that were available before I picked. It was kind of while I was in that process. Like, as a whole, like, how are they useful to a brand or to a company who
your
has
client.
6 assets, to a
Oh,
client? What's the importance of them? And what I learned in the research was the brand assets, aside from like when you get the big things like the logo and the maybe the tagline or the name even, is the brand assets, because at that point that's all a brand had, like a young brand like our brands, say Greener Day Toys, excuse me, they only have 6 things that they had a budget to produce, right?
the word
And
budget.
that's all they can put out in the world is these 6 things. And so, excuse me one second.
You gotta make them good.
Yes.
Yeah, just how do you stretch that? So my research was more about like how to work with minimal amount of brand assets, put your best ones forward, choose the ones that are going to get the most kind of mileage,
Mm,
the social media. I think
Mhm.
the something like the logo and the looping animations, because those are good for multiple forms of,
multiple, yeah.
so you can get more out of it. And then swag, I thought same thing. It's
Swag.
like, hey, you
I
gonna give
always
away,
love the swag.
yeah, you're gonna give away hats and t-shirts or whatever, and it's gonna be out there in the world, and people are gonna see it and ask about it, and
For
there's your,
years to come.
yeah. So that was kind of where my research brought me. Mostly it was about the overall like
Impact.
value and the use and the application of the assets.
Got you.
I know I was thinking more about like how storytelling is used in design, like because I know one of my choices was the 30-second radio ad.
Mm,
And I was just thinking about how can I in these like 3 different like comics, little like storyboards that I did. And I'm just trying to think about, so how can I describe like the brand and its like message, but like differently in like three different ways without it all like, seeming like repetitive.
Mm.
And so I was kind of finding, and also with like the posters and just how is emotion used in marketing and just trying to connect with audiences. How do you make it that it's like it connects with them, but also doesn't seem too like gimmicky? So I was kind of like looking into like stuff like that for my research.
Which ones did you pick?
Um, Besides, of course, our free like required ones, I chose the billboards, the bus stop poster, and the 30-second radio ad
Oh man,
one.
that one's important. The 30-second radio ad. I
Oh
I
yeah.
ended up picking the logo and well the Lupin animation, the billboard and the bus stop poster. Um from my research, I started to look at different social media packages, letterheads, and the bus stop posters. The social media package was interesting because we're doing three, but typically they changed a lot. Like the Facebook layout changes, Instagram doesn't have a banner, but it's changing. It's like it added like reels when it used to just be like just a square. And then the letterhead was interesting as well. I use a lot of letterheads, and most of the time it's in a Word doc. So before like taking my master's and when I was in my bachelor's, I used to create letterheads and I thought they would aesthetically look good, but they didn't work in the real world. Like you can't
Yeah.
type.
That's
So that
always the problem with letterheads.
so so that was one of the I've actually now have perfected it because now in the city world, when you do a letterhead for them, they need it to work to send it to other official people. So in this case, I'm like, I gotta figure out how to make this letterhead aesthetically appealing and work.
Yeah, it's high
Yeah.
function in that setting for those letterheads. There's no boutique fancy
No,
things around the edges and
no, it's like
cool.
simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes total sense. High functioning work material.
Yeah,
It's probably smart to really research that.
that even though it seems simple, but when
It's hard
someone
to
wants
do.
to, yeah, if somebody wants to send a letter and they don't have their brand on it, that can become a problem. So I'm looking into that. The billboards. The billboards, there's print billboards now and there's digital ones. They didn't specify which one, but I'm looking at both.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think if you're doing because you're doing like me, Liz, the billboards and the looping animation,
Yeah.
one could be the other, right? Like
Yes.
I've I've done a looping animation for a
A
digital billboard,
billboard, correct.
so that my client they had one outside their business and they were like, we need a
It was
new
on rotate.
animation. We need a new animation. So I made them something that was like 10 seconds long and they just put it up there and
It
it
just
played.
keeps going. And then the
Yeah,
looping animation could also go on a website as a
it
banner.
could. Yeah, that's
So
what I
I
was
was
saying. Yeah, it could be a banner.
so it's multi purposes of that looping animation. Just like you were saying earlier, yes, it can be used on different things.
oh,
So
wow. I didn't even think about that until you pointed that out about the digital billboards. I
yes.
was, oh, wait,
So
those are a thing too.
so all throughout the when I like I was with like a concert. I worked for Life in Color. It was like a paint party, rave, EDM thing. And I
Mhm.
would do like, I want to say like 10 graphics a day for each country. Yeah.
Wow.
So I had some digital billboards. That's where I got my experience on billboards. It was like digital billboards and print billboards.
That's a
And so
lot of billboards.
a lot of billboards, and they're like different formats, and in different countries, they didn't know how to print in different ways. And yeah. So being there, that's when I learned about like what Phil was saying, the looping animations. So it would be like date, location, and then the next rotation would be like the DJ. So it'd be like Marshmello or Chainsmokers or whoever was
Yeah,
playing.
the names.
Yeah. It was a time. I was looking more so on the look and feels than the actual inspiration.
Yeah, and it does help the research with the look and feel. A lot of look and feel research I do. I mentioned it yesterday in the live lecture we were talking about with Andrea about I get just my wife and I are both designers and books, like
You did say
print
that.
books. We're so full of print books around here because it's good design research, right?
Ellen's book, How to Design Website, explained how designers can create websites with minimal coding experience. He also mentioned how websites such as Facebook, YouTube, and MySpace have become more cultivated. In his book, he explained frame sets and how frame sets can divide a web page into separate sections. He mentioned how every frame will display an individual HTML document. Since starting the program, I have gained the ability to view things from a consumer perspective. The learning material has taught me how to generate a unique solution within 19 seconds.
One of the challenges for me, which I know Phil kind of helped me out with this, was the logo, the whole logo animation storyboarding thing. I was so confused about that at first because I was like, how are we sketching? Like, how do we plan for these kind of things? And Phil was showing me how he had all the little arrows and little sketches, how he did his sketches, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense now, actually, because I was I was confused how I would write out those ideas because with the static media it was kind of easier because I'm like,
Easy.
oh, I'll sketch out the page or kind of like my ideas for like the designs for those things. But then when it came to like things that are like audio and like things that move, I was kind of more confused as to like how I wrote out my thought process for
That
those.
is true. It's a script.
It's a visual script. Yep.
Yeah.
So you just basically make a thumbnail. What I try to do is I look at it, and I'm glad that helped. Avalon, that's so good because my sloppy little sketches are so loose. I work very, very loose at that stage. And I was like, I don't know if she can understand what this even means. So I'm glad that did help. But yeah, I like to think of it as just a little moment, in time. If you pause it, what would it look like? And then if the screen changes up, pause it again and do just over the course of, if it's 15 seconds, maybe 3 or 4 of those paused screens. And it helps show progression, and the arrows show which way things come in. And usually I'll just call out sound effect, like this thing dings when it shows up, and I'll just put SFX beep or ding or whatever. And I'll just kind of put a line to it. So that's how, I don't know if that's the official way to do it. And then the template I use is called a storyboard template. It's got 4 squares and it's got all the lines under it for notes. Have y'all seen how my thumbnails work? I use a digital, it's not an iPad, it's one of those what do they call that ink? It's like smart ink, or it's just LED, it's just black and white or grayscale. And I just use that kind of tablet to thumbnail on. And then
I know what you're talking about now. I used to have one. It's like, you have one?
yeah.
Wait, I haven't seen one of those in a while.
I think this one's called the Remarkable tablet.
Oh my god!
And it's got like the pencil. Let me see if I can get to my.
And it's like magnet, right?
Yeah, the pencil's got a magnet that sticks to the side, and then you just, it's just a
Cool, yeah.
digital but it's digital, it turns into whatchamacallit, and it's just these unlimited notebook pages,
Notebook. I haven't seen so cool. I haven't seen one in so long. I used to use them.
Yeah, this thing's great for sketching. Now when we were doing the logo, I had to draw on tracing paper because we were doing over and over again, but I drew them on here originally, then I traced them off of here with the paper. But these things are wonderful.
They're handy though, and I forgot all about their like existence, so you just reminded me of them. And they're really good because the little magnets just
Oh, the magnet works like it's in a little folio, and the pin sticks right to the side.
Wow.
It's pretty handy, and it's light, and me and my wife bought one. Like we were like, okay, we gotta get this, so we had to buy 2 of them. She uses it for sketching and things too, but they're excellent. I know an iPad can be the same thing, but they're kind of heavier and bulkier, and there's all these apps on it. I mean,
this you can
this
focus
is no
on
apps.
one
it's
thing.
Straight up. It's straight up. You can choose your page template, lines or dots or blank or storyboards, and it's it's very simple. I love it. And then you could just, when you're ready, you just tell it email the PDF of this, and you get a PDF in your email. It just
it wasn't at that level when I used to use.
No, they've come a long way. We've had these for about a year, so we got them last year. Yeah. Say again.
I know my Windows computer like that I have, it's like it can turn into like a drawing tablet. I have like a special one.
Oh yeah.
A drawing tablet, and I have like a drawing pen with that.
Those are cool. Yeah. Are they I looked at one of those too when I was shopping iPads. This is for a long time ago. Those are real cool. Those Windows ones.
Yeah, I really like it because you can like bend it all the way back and turn it into.
Yeah, what's the name of it? It's called
Was it the Surface or
Surface? Yeah.
Yeah.
Technology. No, technology. There's a challenge. How expensive these things are.
How many can I get and not use?
How many can I get? All this tech. And then in 3 or 4 years, it's in a drawer somewhere. You never use it,
Apple makes it defective, and that's it.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, that's what I like about this thing too. It don't have an OS, so Apple's not going to mess it up.
It's like, oh no more upgrades.
Yeah, and then I don't upgrade this thing. It don't need upgrades. It's basically a piece of paper, a digital paper
that can email you.
That can email you. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's magic paper.
Yeah, right.
And the surface is cool. Like the glass, it feels like paper. Like when you're writing and stuff, so that's the thing about the iPads. They're slick and they're kind of weird to write on with that Apple pencil, plasticky and glass. This feels like paper, and the little pencil thing feels like a pencil. Like it's kind of a texture. It feels like old wooden pencil or something. I mean, it's smooth, but it's heavy.
Authentic. It takes you back to like the original.
Yeah, it's cool. And the little tip comes out like because they get worn out, and you can replace the tips too. So
like
they're neat. I can't grab it. But anyway, we have totally gone off the rails. Challenges. Well, I'm glad I helped you with that. When you were asking, and it's hard over text messaging to be like, explaining exactly how it works. So I'm glad that you picked that up.
It made a lot of sense though, because I was working on the different sketches around that time when I texted you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering about that because I was getting up to that point for those ones, and I was like, what do I do for this?
Yeah, no, it's helpful to have, you can just text and say, how are you guys handling this? And there's an answer for you.
For me is looking for the templates for the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It was hard to find, but I was able to find the Facebook. I'm still looking for the Instagram and Twitter template.
What do you plan to use for the website when you're designing the website?
It's my first time doing this, so I still have to watch the YouTube of how to design the website because I don't know how to do that. I still have to watch it.
You might have to do wireframes.
Yeah, kind of how we were talking about storyboards. You would probably do similar for a website sketch, like wireframes.
Mm. Yeah, I forgot to add the website on the sketch. I didn't add
You didn't do
it.
it.
Oh my God.
Wix as well. I think Wix is what in month 11 we're going to design our thesis website in. So
Oh, that's nice.
it might be good. Yeah, it might be good to, if you don't have experience with Wix and you're doing this website project this month, to do it so that when you get to month 11, you'll have a little bit of, background in it as well with Wix.
I have a question. What's that again?
Wix.
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, I'll
Uh-huh.
put a link in the
It's a
chat.
platform.
Let's see.
So my challenge was different. It was more so planning out how I'm gonna execute the 6 media assets. So typically I kind of keep things in my head, but now writing them down, that has been my challenge, and just keeping in mind to share my process.
Mhm.
Being that I have like the billboard, writing down, when I'm gonna work on it, when I'm gonna sketch it, when I'm gonna wrap it up. That's been mine. And I'm also really analyzing how I do my time management, because I'm also now managing other people's time management. And looking at it in this perspective is different, because now I have to find ways to remind them the deadline's coming.
How do you do that?
Oh,
Remember.
so one of the things I do in like my work life is I send them Outlook reminders. So it's like soft deadline. So I'm gonna do that to myself as well, so I can remember to go on the meetings with you guys next time. Like last night I forgot. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna put it in my notes in my and in my calendar.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Organization and execution. Those are two, as a manager and as a person who, sort of oversees the production of everything, those are really your two probably most important skills as
Yeah.
well, to keep everything on track. Actually, you're going to be really good at this month because of that, I'm sure.
I'm trying.
Yeah, definitely.
What were yours, Phil?
So yeah, that's what I was gonna get. I know if you were finished.
No, it's not.
Cool. So for me, one of the challenges was that exactly. I think I looked at the class Sunday night, and I was just like, oh man, that's a lot of stuff. And I went to bed kind of stressing about it, like, okay, how am I gonna get this? And I saw we had a schedule, and so I was like, okay, the schedule for me is gonna be the key. So I really have to make sure that I plan accordingly, because the way I kind of mix up my day with work and school because I freelance, I work for myself, so I kind of can control that to a degree. I have a designer who works for me, so I have to keep her on task and answer her questions and give her assistance with stuff. So I had to really break it down almost hourly, in a day, and be like, okay, from 10 a.m. till noon, really put 2 hours of school and the rest of the day is work, like 2 and 6 kind of thing, or 2 and 4, and then I float for an hour. So I was like, okay, but dedicated this month because of the you got to be rigid with turning sketches out for this day so that you have time to refine, and then by Sunday finalize. So that was definitely a challenge for me. And then a second challenge was when I was sketching, I was having to really like kind of keep my focus, all right, because there's so many sketches and so over the course of so many different projects and assets and things, and they're all some of them are moving, some of them are static, some of them maybe are interactive for other people, maybe not mine so much, but it's staying on brand because now we have a brand. Now we have a
A
look and a
logo.
feel, and we have a logo, and we have colors. And so when you're sketching something and you're not just pulling, assets from Google, you're pulling
Mhm.
these assets that we've created for the last 2 months. So it was like, okay, be sure that when these things are being sketched, that they're being sketched on brand, and I'm using the assets that I created that are going to work for this brand. And so part of that challenge was like, I've never applied all these assets to something like the format of a billboard. So how would that work in this kind of wider, large scale, larger than life sort of format?
The fonts, everything, right?
Yeah, like that rocket's gonna be
Oh
8 feet
my
tall,
God.
or long if I lay it out. It's kind of cool. That could work. And so how can I really utilize that? And one of my solutions was like, well, I'm gonna redraw the rocket because I have it from the flat, I just
Mm.
drew it as flat 2D art. So I
Mhm.
started redrawing it in a 3D perspective, kind of coming at the viewer,
Oh,
1 point perspective. And on something like a billboard, you can have it like with it's gonna look gigantic and it's gonna be this big old rocket. So I was like, okay, so change up the assets to sort of fit with the media that we're doing.
media.
You know? Yeah, and then I'm gonna probably, if I want the rocket to circle around the logo and the motion logo, I'm
Nice.
gonna have to probably almost draw it in 3D so I can get all the sides of it while it's twisting around the
Twisting. That
circle.
is true.
It's almost gonna be like a frame by frame animation. I have to draw the rocket from all the different perspectives. And
Dang.
so I think that's gonna be some more challenges that I see on my in my near future.
That was what she meant by trials and error, like trials and tribulations.
Trials and tribulations, just sort of thinking it through, like, what am
True.
I gonna need to complete this task? Like, and if I want this rocket to circle the logo, I'm gonna need multiple angles of this drawing I made. I just drew it flat. I gotta
Flat,
figure out
yeah.
how to redraw it like 10 different times, depending on how
Mhm.
many frames I want to do it in. So there's the challenges of schedule. There's the challenges, I think, of keeping on brand with so many different, assets, and then the challenges of like, okay, I'm gonna have to keep
Execution.
creating art
Yeah.
and assets and all that stuff. So very challenging stuff, but at the end, it's rewarding. We'll all have some pretty nice work.